everyone. We are here at the Nürburgring in Germany. The sun is shining up, but at the Nürburgring, you never know about the weather, but let's be optimistic. It is sunny. We've got spectators here, and we are excited because for the first time in history of the DTM, we've got 7 brands, because Porsche is the newest member of the DTM family with Michael Ammermüller, and he is already sitting in the car, of course, ready to show what he can do in the Porsche. Fact is that he was brilliant yesterday in the free practice, because he had great results, in fact. So let's see what he can do what he can do today in the qualifying. Fact is, it's a premiere for Porsche, and we're excited. So here's a qualifying, and let's see what all of them can do. It's going to be tricky, it's going to be hot, and Nürburgring, here we come.
Thanks very much, Verena. Morning, everybody. Welcome to what is, for now, a very sunny Nürburgring. And it looks good. The skies are clear and bright and blue. Hardly a cloud in the sky, unlike yesterday, where we did have some sunshine, but we also had a lot of clouds hovering around. And we had a little bit of rain here and there during the course of yesterday, even though it wasn't forecast, because in this very hilly region of Germany, the weather is incredibly changeable, and it changes very quickly. But for now, all is dry. And there is Vincent Abril, who was going well yesterday. He was quickest in the first free practice session. And then we had
what
in the
I
second...
said to Luke is to wait until the queue at the end of the pit lane has gone completely, and then to release you. At the worst case scenario, we'll release you with 1 minute into the session, so that you get out before the front runners come back. Okay.
Daniel Gadea receiving instructions from his race engineer about the procedure for going out for this 20-minute qualifying session. Lucas Stoltz was quickest in the second free practice session yesterday. He's one of the guest drivers that's come in this weekend, as is this man, Michael Ammermüller, who Verena was talking about. A very impressive debut yesterday. If you've followed Michel's career, you will know that he's a very, very successful driver. It might be his debut in DTM, but when he was young, he had a pretty bright single-seater career. He even made it to a third driver and on the Red Bull junior program for a while. Almost got into Formula One, was on the junior program for a year. Almost came into DTM just after that as well, but didn't quite get the drive, and then concentrated on Porsches and sports car racing, and became a 3-time Porsche Super Cup champion. Markus Winkelhock is another new name, or returning name at least, on the grid this weekend. So he is taking the place of Sophia Florsch in the number 99 Team Abt Sportsline Audi just for this weekend. Christian Klein is amongst the guest drivers this weekend as well for JP Motorsports. He made his debut, and the team made their debut last time out at Zolder, and were pretty impressive. And Christian was going well yesterday. He was 5th quickest in that second free practice session, which was the quicker of the 2 sessions. And then Max Gotz, who was 3rd quickest in the afternoon practice session yesterday for Team HRT in the Mercedes. In terms of lap times to be looking for in this qualifying session, the quickest time we had yesterday was Lucas Stoltz in free practice 2, and that was a 1:27.2. So we had the top 19 drivers all beat the 1:28 barrier in the afternoon session. So you've got to be looking at a low 1:27 today, maybe even quicker today, actually, because the conditions look that little bit better than they were yesterday. The track temperature is pretty favourable at the moment at 28 degrees, and it's 19 degrees air temperature. So pretty similar temperatures to yesterday, but we've had lots more rubber laid down on the circuit from the free practice sessions yesterday, and the various practice and qualifying sessions for the other support categories here this weekend. So my name's Chris Hartley. I'm going to talk you throughout the course of this qualifying session, the race this afternoon, and all of tomorrow's action as we approach the halfway stage in what's been a terrific season so far. 2021 DTM has not failed to deliver great, exciting racing and a multitude of race winners. We've had 6 races, 5 different winners already this season. And we've also had no fewer than 9 different drivers up onto the podium at one stage or another. Kelvin Van Der Linde, the driver that leads the championship, the only driver to win more than 1 race this season, victorious on his birthday at Monza, the first weekend of the season, and last time out at Zolder 2 weeks ago, he was the winner of race 1 as the qualifying session gets underway. Kelvin's got 101 points. He's 21 points clear of Liam Lawson, who had a mixed weekend at Zolder, tangled up in an incident in race 1, a non-finish, but then a podium finish in race 2 to claw back some points on Kelvin, who was only able to finish in 8th place in that second race of the weekend. So 21 points the difference, 101 points for Kelvin, 80 points for Liam Lawson. We're looking at Kelvin Van Der Linde, younger brother of Kelvin, who had a difficult weekend at Zolder and is 10th in the championship at the moment, but we know he's an incredibly capable driver. We got Max Gott's 3rd in the championship on 72 points. He's 29 adrift of Kelvin Van Der Linde, and Marco Wittmann up to 4th in the championship after his first win in 2 years, last time out at Zolder. The BMW driver on 67 points, 34 adrift of the championship leader, with Alex Albon on 54 and Philip Ellis on 52 to complete the top 6 in the standings. Remember, points available for qualifying in the top 3 as well. 3 points if you qualify on pole, 2 points for qualifying second, and a point for qualifying third, all of which can have a massive impact at the end of the season. Kelvin Van Der Linde, for example, has already scored 8 points just from qualifying performances this season. And quite often you get the drivers with this system that at the front of the championship can pick up 30+ points by the end of the season, more than an extra win's worth race of points. Arjun Maini early out onto the circuits in the Get Speed Mercedes. It's good to see him back in action after getting tangled up in an early race 1 incident at Zolder, and then unfortunately the team couldn't repair the car in time for race 2, or qualifying 2 on Sunday, so he missed the entire day there. But Arjun has looked pretty quick here this weekend so far. He was 8th quickest yesterday, but it was oh so tight. There were half a dozen drivers, all within a 1/10 of a second of each other, all in the 1:27.7s yesterday. So if he'd found a 1 or 2 more tenths of a second, he would have certainly been up near the top 3. So we'll see how Arjun gets on in search of his first points. Got Nico Muller just behind. Nico's got a new teammate this weekend, so driving the other Team Rosberg Audi. He's not going to be the American Dev Gore here at the Nürburgring. He's had to sit out this weekend, unfortunately, for some personal reasons. But they've got a very strong replacement for Team Rosberg, who's been looking good so far in free practice, which is Christopher Haas, the German driver. An excellent sports car racer, a double winner here at the Nürburgring 24 hours. He's also won other major events like the Dubai 24 hours and the Spa 24-hour event. He knows the Audi well, and he was looking quick yesterday, particularly in the first free practice session where he was in the top 3. So 23 cars on the grid this weekend, with those 4 guest drivers: Lukas Stoltz, Christian Klein, Michael Ammermuller, and the one I haven't mentioned so far today, but we talked about quite a lot yesterday if you watched our coverage of free practice, which is Hubert Haupt, back in the DTM for the first time for 20 years as a driver. He's still very much been involved in DTM as a team manager, running the HRT squad that run Vincent Abril and Max Gott's, but a 3rd car coming in from this weekend, driven by Hubert himself, the Playboy liveried car we will see in this session, number 6. 30 years since he made his DTM debut, raced back in the early 1990s in the category, raced again in 2001, and he's back now to become the first ever driver to race in all 3 eras of DTM. So 4 guest drivers. We've got Christopher Haas in for Dev Gore, and as Verena said, Porsche in for the first time in the DTM. They make their debut as a brand. That brings us to 7 different manufacturers in the championship this year, which is absolutely fantastic in terms of variety, and we'll add further spice, I'm sure, to the racing that we've got coming up this weekend. It's the first time that we've had that many manufacturers for over 30 years. You have to go back to Zolder 1987. That's the last time we had 7 different brands competing in a DTM race. Well, Arjun Maini has set the early benchmark times. Nothing to write home about yet. 1:30s we're still in. 1:34 for him. A 1:32.6 for Marcus Winkelhock, who's the other driver to talk about this weekend coming in. As I say, coming in for Sophia Florsch, who is racing this weekend at Le Mans. And best of luck to Sophia, who's racing alongside Tatiana Calderon and Batskavissa for the Richard Miller team. Did well to qualify in the top half of the field. Got Christopher Haas setting the first really quick time of the session now. Then that is straight down to business for Christopher, 1:27.102. So we are already And that first proper lap that anybody's put in, quicker than yesterday. Track conditions looking good. Marco Wittmann puts a 1:27.2 in to go second, and Lucas Auer third. But Maximilian Buch, he's the first driver this weekend into the 1:26s, 1:26.853. And what about Daniel Hunkadea, the 30-year-old from Barcelona, the ex-Formula 3 champion, looking very strong. Really good first sector of 43.9. That's the first time we've had anybody in the 43s through the first sector of the lap, which is basically the first half of the lap here at the Nürburgring. And I think this is going to be the provisional pole lap as we wait for Daniel to come through. No, he lost time in the final sector. It was not a bad final sector, but relatively slow to the others. But Mike Rockenfeller has done it. He's got a 1:26.812. Kelvin Van Der Linde is about to go quicker than them all, I think. Here he comes, it's going to be 1:26. Wow, 1:26.168. He's gone almost 7/10 quicker than anybody else so far. Now, Kelvin was nowhere near the front in terms of the practice times yesterday. You never could quite tell what's happening in practice, who's running what tyres, what fuel loads, etc. But we did have one radio transmission in free practice 1 where Kelvin was asking for a pretty big change to the setup of the car. They've got it nailed today. He's on provisional pole position, but Marco Wittmann set the absolute best second sector time. He's about 4/10 down in the first sector, though. He's going to improve. I'm not sure he's going to get for pole position. And no, he gets up, but only to 8th place, Marco. Still top BMW at the moment, though. And that now means we've got the top 8 all in the 1:26s. So it's at a much, much more rapid pace than we saw in any of the practice sessions yesterday. Kelvin Van Der Linde top. We've got Arjun Maini back up into second place as well. He's just put his best lap of the session in, 1:26.534. 0.366 seconds the difference. Lucas Stoltz, 1:26.637 has gone third. And then we've got Liam Lawson, 4th place in the Ferrari. Somebody else that was relatively quiet in terms of single lap pace yesterday. But the driver second in the championship, 4th quickest at the moment. He's just shading Nico Muller, but it's oh so tight in amongst them. And we've got Mike Rockenfeller getting back up there, and Philip Ellis has gone into second place. What about Alex Albon? He goes 7th for now. And the Ferrari is showing good pace here in this really important qualifying session. So there's Kelvin Van Der Linde, who is 1:26.052 seconds now. He's just found about another 10th on that last lap to extend his advantage. Philip Ellis up to second for not long, though, because Lucas Stoltz now goes into second place. Vincent Abrils' first charging lap puts him into the top 5 as well. And it's been pretty frenetic so far. It's the Arjun Maini coming into the pits opposite the commentary box. And there is Lucas Auer. He's had 3 pole positions here at this circuit. One of the best qualifiers at the Nürburgring. Only a few drivers have qualified on pole more than 3 times in the championship. One of them being Klaus Ludwig, the most winning driver at the Nürburgring, the multiple DTM champion, who just before we came on air, he's racing the DTM Classic, stuck his Mercedes on pole position. He's 71, Klaus Ludwig, but he got pole position by over a second in that Classic session about 10 or 15 minutes ago. So he's still got it. But he's qualified on pole 4 times. René Rast, Bernd Schneider 4 times. Lucas Auer could equal them. He was looking pretty good yesterday. So Kelvin Van Der Linde top for now, and by a good margin, 0.416 seconds. Lucas Stoltz second, Philip Ellis third. Arjun Maini in the pits 4th, Vincent Abril 5th, Max Scott 6th, and then Liam Lawson 7th, Mike Rockenfeller 8th, Alex Albon 9th, and Nico Muller currently in 10th place. It's getting a bit quieter on track. Some cars coming in at what will be pretty much the halfway stage in the session. So, looking at the times, what a difference a day makes. Hubert Haupt is last at the moment, 23rd.
So, like I said, braking is okay. I think there's time to be gained from my end, for sure. We still have understeer mid-corner, but I was quite surprised how much I lost the rear going into corner 2 on the first lap. But this got better, so it shows me that the rear wasn't ready. For sure the out and warm lap wasn't.
So more time to come, and more time has been found by Max Scott, who's gone second now with a 1:26.427. You're riding on board with him now. It's pretty quiet out on circuit. See if he can put another quick lap in here. He's the absolute best, Max, in the 3rd sector, a 20.6 second run. Just to quickly explain how the sectors work, the lap is divided into 3. It's normally on a lap roughly 3 equal parts, but here at the Nürburgring...
Safe tires. You are P2, 3/10 of Van Der Linde. It's mainly sector 1. How is the balance?
Balance is always here turning in, and others here turn 2.
So pretty good setup. Just a bit of understeer in turn 2. The left-hander, which follows the very tight 90-degree, almost 90-degree corner at turn 1. Otherwise, Max pretty happy with that, as he should be. So I was about to say, what a difference a day makes. Hubert Haupt is last, 23rd. He's done a 1:27.578. Yesterday, a 1 minute 27.578 would have put him 3rd quickest in free practice too. That's how much the track has changed, and perhaps how much the setups have been worked on. Of course, the cars are running as light as they can in terms of fuel loads. So the driver's really attacking on these Michelin tyres. Kelvin Van Der Linde, quickest of all. The surprise here is Michael Ammermuller, who was 2nd and 4th in the 2 free practice sessions yesterday, but he is only at the moment 19th, even though he's gone quicker than he went yesterday. Everybody else has gone much quicker though. So 1:26.9 for Michael Ammermuller, who looked so impressive yesterday. The 3-time Porsche Super Cup champion, currently lingering down in 19th place, just ahead of Timo Glock, who's struggled so far this year, hasn't yet scored a point in the championship. Christian Klein looked good yesterday, but he's down in 21st in the JP Motorsport McLaren as well. So a few surprises, but there's a long way to go in this session. Remember, Christopher Haas was very early on the provisional pole, where he punched in the first 1:27 of the session. Well, he's only 13th now, because everybody's got that much quicker. And it is looking good for Mercedes, because they are 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th at the moment. Audi on provisional pole, though, the championship leader, Kelvin Van Der Linde. 8 minutes remaining in the session. Before we had the radio transmissions, I was just about to explain how the lap is divided into 3, and slightly differently here at the Nürburgring. We're on the sprint course, which is the one we normally use for DTM. And actually, the first sector is really long here. It takes in pretty much the first half of the lap, all the way through to the exit of turn 5, which is the hairpin where they cut off from the Grand Prix circuit and cut the corner back. So it takes in the whole of the first complex, the Mercedes arena, and the hairpin at turn 5 and the exit to that. So the first sector is the really key one here, because it's around about 44 seconds and pretty much half of the lap. Sector 2 takes in the run through the left-hander as you start to build up speed then through Kumo Curva at turn 6, through the right at Bitkurve, and then along that back straight as you begin to climb uphill through Hatzenbecksbogen, and at the end of that straight is where sector 2 ends, and sector 3 is only about 21 seconds long, and that just takes in the chicane at the top of the hill, which is the Vidal chicane, turns 9 and 10, and turn 11, which is the Coca-Cola curve, the final corner, very important corner as well, the Coca-Cola curve, setting you up for that run over the start-finish line and down towards the first gear corner at turn 1. Cars heading back out then for what is going to be very lively 6 minutes or so, I suspect, in terms of pole positions so far this year. That's been well and truly mixed up as well. Kelvin Van Der Linde is the only driver that's got more than 1 race win this year. He's also the only driver that's got more than 1 pole position this year. He had 2 poles at Monza and Zolder. We've had Sheldon Van Der Linde on pole at the Lausitzring. Daniel Hungadea inherited pole position at Monza for the first qualifying session. Van Abril qualified fastest, but then later, for a fueling issue, had results stripped away. And we've also had a pole position for Philip Ellis at the Lausitzring. As I say, Kelvin Van Der Linde has been the most consistent. He's averaged 3rd on the grid, and he's picked up 8 championship points so far.
Maybe he was at first. Let me know.
Kelvin was in first gear.
First gear in corner 5, right?
Mike Rockenfeller we were hearing. Try and find out what his teammate's up to and why he's so much quicker. Mike Rockenfeller 8th at the moment, 1:26.681, which is 0.6 of a second away from the time set by his teammate Kelvin Van Der Linde. Max Gott's out then. He's looking for his first DTM pole position. He's been a race winner, but not yet a pole sitter. Big gap, 1 minute 26.052 at the moment. This is the biggest gap, potentially, or one of the biggest gaps we've had in qualifying. The average gap between the top 2 this year in qualifying has been just over 1/10 of a second, and the smallest gap we had in rounds 3 at Zolder a couple of weeks ago was 22 thousandths of a second. We had the top 2 split in the 3rd qualifying session of the year at the Lausitzring by just 27 thousandths of a second as well. But the biggest gap coming last time out, 0.394 seconds from Marco Wittmann, which was a curtailed session. The red flags came out with a couple of minutes to go. Some drivers didn't get a chance to set the hot laps they were on. But this is a similar advantage so far, ... for Kelvin Van Der Linde, 0.375 seconds. It's very close behind, though. Got several drivers in the 126.4s and 5s and 6s. So the rest of the top 10 split by less than 0.2 of a second. So Van Der Linde building up speed, trying to find track position for another run at this. One, possibly 2 laps. We'll be looking to get out of the tyres. Now limited to, in your second event and beyond in DTM, 3 sets of new Michelins to run across free practice qualifying, which they've saved the best tyres for, which is part of the reason they're going much quicker today than yesterday, and of course for the 2 races. If it's your first event in DTM, you get 5 sets of new tyres, so that will apply to some of the guest drivers here this weekend, like Nico Stoltz and Michael Muller. So we've got Van Der Linde, Götz and Stoltz as the top 3. And we've got 1 or 2 that need to find a bit of pace here. Liam Lawson would like to be higher on the grid than 7th. If he wants to do that, he doesn't have to find that much time. If he can find a 1/10 of a second, he can push up towards the 2nd row of the grid. But of course, his big championship rival at the moment is top of the pile. You've got Nico Muller, race winner here on 2 occasions last year. We had back-to-back events at the Nürburgring. For the first time we used the full Grand Prix circuit for a DTM weekend, and then on the sprint circuit the following weekend, which is the one we're using now. Lots of the guest drivers familiar with the Nürburgring, not necessarily with DTM or with these tyres. Michael Muller knows the Porsche well, but usually in the ADAC GT Masters Championship, for example, which he is competing in and leading this year, having won it last year with the team, relatively new team, SSR Performance. He's used to driving that car on Pirelli tyres. Now Marco Wittmann, 3rd all of a sudden with a 126.428. That's only 1/1000 of a second away from the front row of the grid as well. Max Götz is just ahead of him. He's got another lap here, potentially, Marco Wittmann, but that was all about the 2nd sector. Absolute best, 21.5 seconds through the 2nd sector. Christopher Haas found some time now on that one as well, 126.444. We've now got 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, all in the 126.4s. You're looking at Liam Lawson and Christopher Haas. Christopher Haas in the number 12 Team Rosberg Audi, who's gone onto the 2nd row of the grid. Esteban Muth, the overtaker, as he's now been dubbed after his great moves at Zolder a couple of weeks ago. And the Belgian 19-year-old is on a good lap here, looking to improve, but not yet enough. 127.465. Still needs to find quite a bit of pace to get up near the sharp end. He's down in 18th place at the moment, so got to get into the mid-126s to be in the hunt for a top 10 here. Daniel Hunkedea in 8th at the moment, but he's had a very good first sector, 43.796 seconds, and the 2nd sector was pretty good as well. So Hunkedea might improve here, and does up to 7th place. That's Max Buch down to 8th position. Anybody on a charge at the moment? Quite a few green sectors, no absolute bests, but personal bests coming. That's a decent first sector for Mike Rockenfeller. A couple of 10ths down on the best first sector, and about 3 tenths down on the best 2nd sector. So he's looking to be about half a second or so behind on this lap, and that might not be enough to improve him, at least not by much, unless he goes really well in this final sector. We'll find out in a moment as Rockenfeller comes through. We've got Philip Ellis improving as well, and Mike Rockenfeller, his best lap of the session, 126.494, 8th place though, can't quite get up into the top 6. Christian Kleen, better lap, goes up to 13th position. At the moment it's Kelvin Van Der Linde, still top of the tree though. His last lap was a 126.858, so this one will be the one he want to really push on to solidify his position. He's 0.2 of a second clear. Rockenfeller's lost a lap time for track limits at turn 9. So that was on the way into the Vidal chicane. Track limits, lap taken away from him. And then he'll drop back down to 15th place. Philip Ellis goes onto the front row of the grid, 126.234 seconds then. And that's almost 2 tenths behind still Kelvin Van Der Linde. Lucas Stoltz goes up to second now, 126.234. It's changing all the time. Ellis down to third, Wittmann down to fourth, Gotts in fifth, and Daniel Hunkerdea puts another good lap in to get back into the top 5. Max Gott's absolute best through the final sector, but it's only enough for 6th place. He's taken the checkered flag. Esme Hawkey has taken the checkered flag as well. Any late improvements to come? What about Kelvin Van Der Linde? Pretty good first sector for Kelvin, 43.76 seconds. So that's close to the best, but he's about 3 tenths down on the best second sector. So he needs a really good third sector to improve his time, but he might not need to. He's 2 tenths clear as it stands. Ellis back to second, and this is because Lucas Stoltz's lap time has been taken away for, guess what, disrespecting track limits. And again, it was at turn 9 at the chicane, so Stoltz bumped back down to 7th place. There he is. It's still a very good effort for Luca. And the number 7 TalkSport WRT squad, who are based just outside the circuit here at the Nürburgring. Glorious looking Mercedes, so he's got to try and improve on this lap, and he's had a good first sector. Van der Linde didn't finish the lap, but he might not need to. He's in the pits. Anybody going to improve here right at the end? Alex Albon put in the best final sector of the lap, but only good enough for 9th place. Lucas Stoltz, can he get into the top 6 with this lap? Yes, up to 5th place at the end of the session. Hunkerdea 4th as well with an improvement late on. But the top of the tree, he's untroubled because Kelvin Van Der Linde has got a 3rd pole position of the season. It seems a 126.052 and 2 tenths of a second clear of Philip Ellis with a 126.263. Marco Wittmann, another strong qualifying for the Zolder winner, 126.322 seconds, just a fraction slower than Philip Ellis, 59 thousandths behind the second best qualifier, but Marco Wittmann, I think, will be happy with 3rd. Daniel Hunkerdea, strong performance in 4th place, 126.344. He was only 22 thousandths of a second behind Wittmann. He was only 1 thousandth of a second clear of Lucas Stoltz in the end. He put in that very strong lap late on to go 5th, 126.345 for Stoltz. Just 1,000th of a second away from being on the 2nd row of the grid. Max Gott's in 6th, Christopher Haas in 7th. Esteban Muth improved late on as well to get up to 8th. Alex Albon 9th. Max Buch in 10th place. Liam Lawson, driver 2nd in the championship, back in 11th. So the Ferrari's not qualifying all that well here. 9th and 11th. Arjun Maini 12th. Mats Abreu 13th. Christian Klein 14th. Lucas Auer 15th. And then Rockenfeller, who lost his best lap for track limits reasons, down to 16th. Nico Muller back in 17th place in that session. Sheldon Van der Linde also disappointing in 18th. Winkelhock 19th, Amar Muller 20th, and then Hawkey, Glock and Hout 21st, 22nd and 23rd. So their confirmation of the top 10 and a pole position for the championship leader, and a very welcome 3 points as well to add to his tally now at the top of the standings. 2 points for Philip Ellis and a point for Marco Wittmann. So in terms of the championship standings, going into this afternoon's race, Kelvin Van Der Linde will now move on to 104 points, and that will give him a 24-point lead in the championship over Liam Lawson. And of course, Liam is going to be 10 places further back on the grid. But Liam, we know, he's a strong overtaker and will look to push forward from there. So a very impressive job by Kelvin Van Der Linde. I'm not sure many people will have seen that coming after yesterday, because he was, as I say, struggling a little bit for outright pace, but maybe, just maybe, he was working on the long run setup and knew once they put the new tyres on and got the fuel load down, he'd be able to go for it. And it came in the first half of the session as the Volkenhorst driver Marco Wittmann, who you saw congratulating at the pole sitter Kelvin Van Der Linde, the South African, extremely happy with that. He has been Mr. Consistent so far this year, and that is exactly what you need to do in this 16-race DTM Championship. You can't win them all. Win the ones when you've got a chance. Bag a podium if you get a chance, but keep scoring points every round. And that is something that Kelvin and a few other drivers have been very good at this year. Points in all 6 races so far for Kelvin Van Der Linde, which is why he's top of the tree. Remember, it could have been 3 race wins as well had he not had that technical issue of the car cutting out briefly at the Lawson, which dropped him from 1st to 3rd position. And Marco Wittmann and the Volkenhorst team were a new team into DTM. Very experienced driver with Marco, a 16-time race winner and double champion, helping to lead the team forward. But they've cracked qualifying now, it seems, which was a bit of an Achilles heel for the team for the first couple of rounds. Now they've sorted that. The race pace has been strong throughout. Very good performance again from Philip Ellis as well. He's been one of the pole sitters this year and has been, again, a pretty consistently good qualifier. Didn't have a good qualifying last time out at Zolder, but other than that, he's been in the top 10 every single time. And Philip will be certainly one to watch. 0.2 of a second to find, but we'll see what the race pace is like. There's the very eye-catching race suit of ex-Formula 1 racer Christian Klein. He struggled a bit in that session, but he did improve late on to get himself up into the midfield, up into 14th place in the McLaren. But it's an Audi on top of the tree, a Mercedes second, a BMW third, 3 different brands in the top 3 here. You've also got Lamborghini and Ferrari represented within the top 10. But disappointment for Porsche after a strong day yesterday. Michael Ammermuller is going to have to do something from 20th on the grid. The pace, the track has all changed today, and it's a much more rapid pace. 1:26.052, more than a second quicker than the pace from yesterday's afternoon practice session. So some super slow-mos from what was a very sunny session here at the Nürburgring. Some super slow-mos of the top 3 drivers. We can hear from some of our drivers now at the close of the show. Let's head back to the pit lane and to Verena.
Yes, and I've got Philip Ellis here, who did a great qualifying P2. So far, you had 1 victory in this season, and I guess coming from P2, can you smell a bit of victory already?
Maybe. I think it's going to be hard to beat Kelvin, especially on this track. I think it's one of his favorite tracks. But, you know, I'm very happy, I have to say. I didn't really expect to be on P2. Lap didn't feel too clean, I have to say. So a bit messy, especially the last sector. And I think even if I had a full clean lap, it wouldn't have been enough for Kelvin. So I think in the race it will be equally tough to get past him. And yeah, of course I'm going to try my best to get him, maybe right at the start, but it's going to be a tough one.
I'm sure, but I'm sure you'll do great. Thank you so much, Philip, and fantastic P2. So let's see what the race will bring. Both are still in an interview, but I'm going to try to grab Marco Wittmann away from Oliver, from sorry, not being impolite here. Hey, Marco, great qualifying. You got a P3, and looking at your face, I can interpret a little bit. You're happy with the P3 because from there you can still push forward, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to be honest, after the first run, we not expected to be there. It was P17 after the first run, and it was pretty much similar to the FP sessions, really. So it's all close, but we still struggled a bit to find the last bit, you know. And the last lap in the second run was just pretty perfect. Yeah, pretty nailed it onto P3, which is super nice. As I said, if you're something not expect, it's always nice to have.
And also you still have the victory of Zolder maybe behind you, so hopefully it's going to be a good race for you.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right, thank you so much, Marco. I'm going to see if Kelvin Van Der Linde is ready for an interview here. Let's just see for a second. Yes, almost, but definitely, I mean, Kelvin has 3 pole positions so far. Kelvin, there he is. Congratulations. I mean, you're just on a fly. It's your 3rd pole, and then at the Nürburgring once again. So I know I know your answer. If I say you're getting used to it, you'll probably say, oh no, it's tough. But it is the 3rd pole, so how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm really happy about the pole. I try really today to just be a bit more calm. Normally I'm the crazy guy swearing on the radio when I get pole, so today my parents weren't so happy about the swearing last time, so today I take it a bit more
swearing?
easy.
What swearing?
Yeah, there's kids watching, you know. So. No, but I'm really happy to be here. Nürburgring's a special track for me in general. I always had good results here, so I'm just happy to be here.
So let's hope that instead of that, we're going to hear today, yippee, after the race,
we'll
right?
try that one after the race.
All right. Well, best of luck. Thank you so much. And yeah, that was a fantastic qualifying so far here at the Nürburgring, and now of course we're looking forward to a race later on, and here are the highlights. Enjoy, and we'll definitely see you later because you don't want to miss the race. See ya.